Welcome in, everybody, to the Coffee and Football Wednesday edition. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jerry Hamilton. Our friend Blake Monroe out this morning. Got a little upset stomach. This episode of Coffee and Football brought to you by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. Jerry Hamilton, we have gone now 2 weeks into this season. The Texas Longhorns are 2-0 after a dominating victory over Michigan this weekend. You and I right now have been talking about it behind the scenes. I wrote an article for ontexasfootball.com this morning talking about just how big right now, Jerry, the Longhorns recruiting effort is gaining steam. Not just in front of the camera and what kids are saying to reporters, but also behind the scenes. There has been a flurry of activity, and not just 2025 players. We're talking about across the board. I think that this Michigan game may be the final straw that broke the camel's back about what allows Texas to become not just a good to great recruiting program, but possibly the very best in the country. They're getting that kind of I know Georgia's killing it, right? But Texas is starting. I've been doing this 30 plus years. You've done it 25 plus. Texas is starting to get that kind of acclaim and that kind of feedback right now. So I'm going to start with that. Also, I want to say this real quick before we get going. Today's going to be a Q&A. We've got a couple of guests coming up. Tony Hills, Hump Day with Hills, will join us at around 8:30 this morning. And then Paul Finebaum, he of ESPN fame, Southeastern Conference guru, just a good old guy that loves to get under the skin of college football fans everywhere. He's going to visit with us later today around 8:45 to 8:50. We hope to have a bunch of fun stuff for you guys today, as it's just me and Jerry in the con. Jerry, what do you have to say about my comment on recruiting and just I called it an avalanche. There's a difference between a snowball rolling downhill and an avalanche. Behind the scenes right now, I'm being told it's an avalanche of sorts. You hearing the same thing?
Yeah, well, I think Texas is in that territory now of the and I'm not saying they're on that level because Georgia's won 2 national titles, but they're on track to be Georgia, Ohio State, Texas. I mean, we'll see Alabama. Obviously, Kalen DeBoer, they have a great class. We'll see how that carries over for him. I think Alabama's going to recruit just fine, but the key is I think Texas is elevating themselves to a top 3 or 4 program in the country, and I always call it cool school. I think Texas is back to being a cool school. And I think people underestimate how important that is in recruiting. And I kind of jokingly call it cool school, but there's something to it. I mean, for the people that followed this a long time, think about how Vince and TJ Ford made Texas a cool school. I mean, it's reality.
It might be Bijan, Quinn, and Arch.
Yeah, I think Quinn and Arch. I think Quinn and Arch for sure.
Bijan has done it a little bit, dude. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, I think so. I think Texas is right there. And the key here's again though, the key for me is Texas going to get everybody? No. These are national recruitments. These are big boy, gird up your loins. Everybody's coming after these kids type recruitments. But here's the thing. As you build a program, you get more guys on campus. The more guys you get on campus from around the country, the better your evaluations continue to get. It's the advantage that a Nick Saban had. Dabo had it until he let it go a little bit. Kirby has it. When you have the ability to get about every kid on campus you want, you can make truly sound evaluations because it goes past the huddle and the calls to the high school coach and the assistant coach visit in the spring or during the season. It goes to the in-person evaluations and fit between kid and parents. And the more guys you get on campus nationally, I mean, that's the better place you are if you're a national recruiting program, which Texas is. So I think it's all positive right now. Again, I'm going to say the same thing I said last season. If Texas follows this big win up with a playoff appearance, and I know Texas looks tremendous right now, seasons have to play out, injuries, blah, 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 blah. If this thing follows up once again back-to-back years, then Texas is truly, truly, truly off and running. And they are – I can't tell you. I mean, I just came from Georgia. in Florida, and I was down there a week, Saraland High. I mean, Texas is now getting back to that point. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they've had some key recruiting wins nationally. They're starting to have guys win awards. I know sometimes that we as fans are like, Heisman Trophy doesn't matter. These awards, blah, blah, blah. It matters in recruiting. Schools sell hardware. They sell their wins and losses hardware, and they sell their award winner hardware. And all of this stuff matters. All of it matters. So I think Texas is in a great spot in recruiting. Obviously, tomorrow, one of the top junior safeties in the country, Zealous Hicks out of Carrollton High in Georgia, is going to announce his decision early, really early. And Texas is right there in that one with Auburn, Tennessee, Georgia, and Clemson. Carrollton High, one of the top programs in the state of Georgia. I think that's the highest paid high school coach in America, by the way. And, the quarterback, Juju Lewis, obviously one of the tops in the country. They have a 2026 corner committed to Bama. They have a number of kids at Carrollton High. But Zealous Hicks is one of the top safeties in that 2026 class, and he's announcing a decision tomorrow. And he's been to Texas 2 or 3 times in the last few months.
I look, that's part of the 2026 contingent I was talking about earlier, right, Jerry? It's not just 2025 now. I do believe. Do you agree with me? And before we're going to get to a lot of people's questions, here today, and try to do that because Blake is not with us. If you didn't hear it at the very outset of this, Blake sick. He had a little upset tummy this morning. Shouldn't have eaten Domino's at 11 p.m. Blake. I don't think that's the way to go, buddy. But anyways, we're going to answer questions, talk about that. But do you think, Jerry, that this win over Michigan was the straw that broke the camel's back, the one that really opened up the floodgates? Because we talked about it all this offseason. Texas couldn't be a one-hit wonder. They couldn't just win one season, go to the college football playoff like TCU did a year ago, or 2 years ago, and then all of a sudden go 5-7. Texas couldn't be a one-hit wonder. Players had to be proven that they weren't. They go up and beat Michigan, and basically, you and I both know coach's phones start ringing off the hook is what happened this weekend.
Yeah.
Do you think that or no?
No, I think that factors in big time for sure. I mean, look, that's a huge win back-to-back years. Those kind of stamp. If Sark needed anything else stamped on the program, the Alabama win backed up by a Michigan win coming off the playoff. Here's the thing. We sit here and talk about on the chat about Michigan. Offensively, they got issues. Maybe they're only an 8-4 team this year. Defensively, they're still damn good, by the way. But here's the thing. Recruits don't look at it that way. Recruits saw Texas physically whip and make big plays and have fun doing it, and the fun offense beat the snot out of defending national champs in their house in front of 111,000 people. A lot of Texas fans, the most viewed college football game this year. I mean, all the kids watch that game. It doesn't matter the conversations we have necessarily about is Michigan an 8-4 team? Are they a 9-3 team? What's their offense going to look? It doesn't really matter. The kids look at this a different way. And these wins are massive. I mean, they're massive in recruiting. And I always say that your season that you're having really affects the next 2 classes. So Texas season last year, I think, continues to have a positive effect on 25s. And you back that up, your 26s, your 27s. I mean, and here's another thing. Texas they're recruiting big-time players in different areas now. That also matters in recruiting because I'm here to tell you, Diabell's lighting it up at American Heritage as a junior. And he's sitting down there as a Texas quarterback commitment in Broward County for 2 years before he graduates early. As a guy that's going to be ranked a 5-star prospect. Jamie French is up at Jacksonville Mandarin at a program that lost to the state title last year. By the way, if you haven't seen the interview with him, it's awesome as always on the recruiting breakdown yesterday. But he's in Jacksonville, Florida, one of the most popular kids, in this class with other guys. Texas is getting a lot of cool school street cred from recruits as well. And they have some big names. And I think these recruitments are more individual than they've ever been because of the NIL component. But at the same time, the cool school factor, other big-time guys with voices that are popular players. That stuff still matters in recruiting. And Texas has a lot of those guys. As, by the way, somebody asked in here about the linebacker Grace and the 26 kid. I mean, I hesitate to rank a lot of guys 5 stars this early. He's one for me. Tyler Atkinson, Grayson High, the linebacker, is an absolute beast. His junior huddles up. He will be at the Texas-Georgia game. That'll be a second visit to Texas. Georgia, Auburn, Tennessee, stiff competition there. But family's originally from North Carolina. Again, we talk about that all the time. That family moved in the Atlanta area, Loganville, 10 years ago. So they didn't grow up with Georgia jerseys on, but that doesn't mean Georgia isn't tough to beat at the same time.
All right, Jerry, let's go ahead and start taking some questions. But before we do so, I want to say thank you to one of our key sponsors. He really is. His name's Adam Lowy with the Lowy Law Firm. Jerry not only sponsors our Wednesday morning coffee of football, but also our state of the program, as well as the rapid reactions on Sunday morning. Adam's been a really good friend of this show, and we appreciate his support. And he did it before we got any kind of audience size and all this other stuff. So very, very appreciative of him. If you've ever been hit by a car in an auto accident, ATV, motorcycle, 18-wheeler, etc., and want to talk to someone, think you might be due compensation, give Adam and his group a call. It's a 100% free consultation, no strings attached. Reach out to him at loweylawfirm.com. That's loweylawfirm.com. Thank you, Adam, for your support of coffee and football, as well as just on Texas football and in general. Hey, Jerry, we have not talked about basketball in a hot minute. It's literally been a couple weeks since we really took any basketball questions. So I want to start there and make this more general for you. Jerry, basketball question from Hi, I'm Boo. Any chance we land Isaiah Harwell? And then if you don't mind, Jerry, kind of go ahead and talk about a little bit more about basketball recruiting in general for a couple minutes to give people an update, because we haven't hit on that topic enough.
Yeah, real quick there. Isaiah Harwell, 5-star shooting guard, combo guard out of Utah. Gonzaga, Houston, Texas, I think are the players there. Visited Texas already. We'll see what happens there. NIL is a big deal part of basketball recruiting because there's only 2-3 high school kids in classes. Kingston Flemings, the point guard from San Antonio, one of the best in the country, visited last weekend. Visiting Houston, visiting Texas Tech, maybe Gonzaga as well. That will be a very NIL-impacted recruitment. Just think back to Texas Tech with JT Toppin, see what happens there. John Clark out of Klein Kane, who's now at Link Academy in Missouri, is visiting this weekend. He was at Houston last weekend. Texas A&M's got a visit. Kansas may get a visit. Ohio State and Texas. Again, those are 3 of your top guys. Koa Pete, 5-star from Arizona, younger brother of Andrews Pete. He'll visit Texas as well officially. Rodney Terry's has had connections there for years and years. I think that may be a little bit of a tougher one for Texas. And they're going to bring a couple other guys in. Shelton Henderson from Bel Air. I think that's Duke if Duke wants him. But I think you're looking at a 2-man high school class early on, but only if it's the right 2, and then could go to 3, kind of like last year, a late spring guy or something like that. But Texas isn't going big on high school classes, but they're getting some really, really high-end guys here on official visits, and we'll see who they close the deal with. Again, NIL is so impactful in high school basketball recruiting right now because a lot of these schools are going for 2-man classes. There's high leverage situations there. So there's a lot going into hoops recruiting right now. It's kind of wild, honestly.
I love the idea, Jerry, that Texas is involved in all these guys and trying to get them not only on campus. We had a guy on campus a couple weeks ago that was literally walking behind us while we were at the co-op, and I was like, "Who's that tall dude?"
That was Harwell.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I'm like, just in the co-op. Hey, a couple other questions that we've got coming in. Please get your questions in. Again, we'll have Tony Hills join us around 8:30. He's going to step in after dropping his kids off at the school. Then Paul Finebaum will join us around 8:45, 8:50 this morning. Question for you, Jerry. Go ahead.
Question, Bobby. David Keith Williams, if you view Colin Simmons as a 10 regarding talent, potential, athleticism at weak side DN, what's your rating of Hilson? That's a really good question. David Keith always has great recruiting questions. Bobby, you've watched Hilson. Would you have Smith or Ogbo or Hilson higher?
The issue, I don't know.
I'm not. I don't have him.
Jerry. I'll say why. You've seen them both in person.
Yeah,
I have not, and I think that in-person evaluation is so important.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about both of those guys compared to Colin Simmons is I think Colin Simmons may have been working in the offseason a little bit more on pass rushing moves and be a little bit ahead of them from that mentality standpoint, both Hilson and Orogbo, if that makes sense. I think Colin has known that he's going to be a pass rusher for his entire life. Smith Orogbo has not necessarily. Not that he doesn't want to be and can't be. To the point of the question, it's just I think he was further along in high school, maybe because he had more games to play. I mean, literally, he's played so many extra games in playoffs. It's like he played an entire extra high school football season than those guys. And those guys are also only high school seniors. But look, I love Smith Orogbo. I think I've been up on the limb with that from the very get-go before he was even offered by Texas. I think, Jerry, I called you and said, this guy looks a little freaky. And Javion Hilson has the production to back his side up. What they both are, long-limbed, athletic pass rushers that play through contact. That's what they are. And I'm not going to – and I will also say I like their physical mentality. I mean, they are not – even though they're longer, leaner guys, they don't play like long, lean guys. Neither does Colin Simmons.
Yeah.
And so those are the guys that can get after the pass are the best out there.
So I think Hilson, I think Orogbo may have a higher ceiling than Hilson. The tough thing when comparing Texas high school kids to Florida high school kids, I'm a broken record on this though, but living down there doing this nationally for years is the setup in the high school level in the public schools just not even, you can't even compare it to a Texas or Georgia. That's not the athletic period every day setup. It's not the booster clubs. It's not the facilities. There's just nothing the same. These kids are so raw physically coming out of high. Jarrett Gibson's an exception. He was born doing push-ups and then he went to IMG. So that's different. You take out St. Thomas Aquinas guys, you take out the IMG, the private school guys, but the public schools in Florida, these kids are so raw physically coming out because the setup's not there for them. They don't even have middle school football at most places. That's a county-to-county decision in the state of Florida. So a lot of counties don't even play middle school football. So these kids play youth football on a grass field with grass up to their calves until they get to high school. I mean, so there's no football structure until they get to high school. And then you don't have the facilities. You don't have 9 or 10 full paid coaches on these staffs to help develop and grind these kids a little bit, right? So it's so different. So Hilson's got a lot of upside. But saying that, Smith Orogbo reminds me of a kid from Florida because he's only been playing football 3 years. He's extremely raw from a physical standpoint, but his pass rush ability is going to be pretty elite, I think.
Good stuff. Look, what Texas is doing in the edge room overall is the important piece to me. They can bring the heat. Hey, we got Tony Hills waiting in the wings. Jerry, before we bring him in, do you mind telling folks about HelloFresh? Yeah,
for sure, guys. HelloFresh, this is a favorite of the fam here. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasoned recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. And we all know home-cooked meals are so much better for you, but you don't always have time to pull it off, especially if you're on the road 9 straight days.
Hey, just ask Blake Monroe about what he
Blake should have gone with HelloFresh last night. But with HelloFresh handling all the meal planning, shopping, and most of the prep, it's easier than ever to get dinner on the table, quick and painless, Blake Monroe, painless. Easily customize your meals with protein or veggie swaps. And don't forget to check out HelloFresh Market for more delicious add-on items to jazz up your weekly deliveries. For a free breakfast for life, go to HelloFresh.com/free on Texas. 1 free breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's one free breakfast for life just by going to HelloFresh.com/free Texas. Free Texas. Isn't that what Steve Sarkisian did?
Hey, let him in. Hey, back by popular demand, Jerry. Back by popular demand. Tony Hills, a.k.a. Tony the Tycoon. We got to ask him about that one of these days. Tony, you came in and stepped in last week and visited with us on Coffee and Football. And then you did the post-game show in the absence of Brian Robeson with Rod and myself. And I got to tell you, Tony, people clamored for you. And so now we're going to create a segment each and every week for Mr. Hills called Hump Day with Hills. It's going to be every Wednesday morning around 8:30. Welcome in, Tony. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man. Hey. Well, hopefully everything's coming in loud and clear. I'm happy, man. I'm so excited to be here, brother. And let's get it, man. Hump Day with Hills has a nice ring to it. You know what I mean? I like that. So we can rock with that.
I got to tell you, your picture choice is stellar. Now, not only is it you after a victory, but there's one of the fastest men to ever wear a Texas uniform behind you, Jamal Charles, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the only time that he would ever be behind me, right? If I tried to race him, man, it would be a wrap. I'd tear every ligament in my body. But no, Jamal, man, phenomenal career. You know what I mean? Just an excellent person. And the thing that I loved about Jamal is like when he came into the game, even with his early success, Jerry, man, he was always humble, man. He was always wanting to learn. And I got a funny story to tell about him later on in the segment. You guys are going to love this.
Hey, go for it now. Go for it now.
So, all right. So we get into the game, and I believe it was after the Oklahoma game where, you know, obviously we didn't have the success that we wanted, and he fumbled the ball close to the goal line. I had told him previously what the defensive end was going to be doing because of how we were so close. And he's like, yeah, I got it, right? Because in his mind, like, I'm getting in the end zone. I get it, right? Well, we make the block. I do exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I hear a loud eruption. In my mind, I'm like, hell yeah, we just went up. I get up from pancaking the guy. I turn around and see my hopes and dreams running in the opposite direction for a 90-something yard recovery. That wins and losses come a dime a dozen. I'm not tripping on that. We get into the walkthroughs going to the next game, and I didn't talk to Jamal. I was extremely perturbed with what happened. And so he won me back because he used to carry these candies. I don't know if they were Jolly Ranchers or Now Laters. He'd always carry them in walkthroughs. And he walked up to me and was like, I got something for you, big dog. And I just looked at him and snatched him and started laughing. So that's Jamal, man. At the end of the day, man, that's my brother. I go to war with him any day. Phenomenal athlete, caring person. And even when you upset with him, you can't stay mad forever, man. So
that's what teammates are.
Tony, I got a question for you real quick before we get to Texas football now.
Yeah.
We were talking at the beginning of this show. I use the term cool school. The fans hate it, but it matters with kids, right? It's who's cool a lot of times. You came out of Houston right around the Vince Young, TJ Ford times. You were a hooper. You've told us. Talk about kind of the impact. I mean, you were part of that when VY and TJ Ford and that Willow Ridge team, those guys picked Texas. That's a big deal. That really changed, I think, Texas athletics and got it moving in even a bigger direction. Talk about that from your perspective, being at A-Leaf Elsick through those years.
Yeah, you know, so a big influence for me to go to the University of Texas was obviously I told you guys the Mac story. That's the back end. But if you look into the background of it, it was Rod Wright. Because for people that don't understand how A-Leaf is set up when it comes to the rivalry, right? It's Hastings and it's Elsick, and we're literally connected by annex building, right? Yep. So a lot of us have gone to middle school together, just ended up going to different schools. So from that competitive spirit, competitive nature, you know, if we had affiliations at A-Leaf middle school, we no longer do, right? If you went to Ali, A-Leaf didn't mess with Ali unless A-Leaf and Ali now was in Elsick, right? So now we're all together. And so for me, it was Roderick Wright and then another good brother of mine, family member of mine, Alonzo Dotson. So it was supposed to be us three that were all going to Texas. Alonzo decided to go another direction. See how that worked out. But I think the biggest thing was when we saw Vince do what he did, we knew that there was a tide that was turning and was shifting, right? And Texas started to become in the school. Like, it was like, hey, this is a school where a lot of the big talent is going. You talk about TJ Ford. I truly believe TJ Ford ushered in a lot of the athletes that we see on the basketball side today. Some names are big. Of course, we know the Kevin Durant's of the world, right? The PJ Tuckers, but like a Daniel Boobie Gibson, a DJ Augustine, a lot of them followed in the footsteps of a TJ Ford. You know, the guy with the big baggy shorts that was jumping up over everybody and dunking. And honestly, had he not had that back injury, would have had an NBA career that would extend it way beyond what it did. And so we just started seeing that, like, hey, if we're going to be in these prominent areas, right, the Houston area, the Dallas area, like all of these areas where big time football is being played, why not keep it in our state? And I think that's when you started seeing things make sense and the shift happened. Vince was the catalyst from that on the football side. But I really think that TJ Ford was the catalyst of it for the NBA and the NCAA and the NBA side.
I think it's good stuff. We talked about it this morning, Tony. Texas proved that they're not a one-hit wonder with last year by this win at Michigan, right? Because you think about it, what was TCU in 2022? A one-hit wonder, right?
Correct.
Went to the playoffs. Look great, etc. Come back the next year, you know, they don't keep going, right? They don't build on it. And now that Texas is building on it, and it's Texas, and they've got NIL going, and they had 11 draft picks, and Sark's kind of got a little mojo about him with the player. You know what I mean? It's all building. Tony, I was going to ask you, talk to you immediately after the game, obviously on Saturday night or Saturday afternoon. Do you have any follow-ups on what you were thinking in the post game that maybe you didn't really get to during that time, or something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you go back and you watch the game, the one thing that I didn't talk about, we talked about the alignment and assignment. We knew that Wink Martindale was going to come with all of these different exotic blitzes, and we had to pick it up. You want to know the thing that I don't think that we talked about enough, and this is conclusive. I think we didn't talk about the intensity that Texas played with. Like, when is the last time that we've seen them play with a certain intensity? We've seen it in spurts, but when have we seen it from the first quarter all the way to the fourth quarter, right? And I think what's happening, I know what's happening is Texas is starting to play towards a standard, right? Like Mike Tomlin used to say that the opponent is a nameless gray face. The standard is the standard, right? And I'm starting to see that that's the way that Texas is playing. Whether we're playing a Colorado State, and if you're going to give us 52 points, we're going to gladly take them, and we're not going to give up anything. Or we're playing the defending national champions at their home. Hey, listen, we're going to take whatever it is that you give us. But here's the key word that I'm starting to see, and I love. We're taking it. I think Texas they're in a thought process of, we know that we put the work in. We know where we're headed. We know where we fell short last year. We're not going to let that happen again. We're going to control the things that we can control. What can we control with? We can control how we study. We can control how we prepare. Right. And we can control how we put what product we put out there on each and every week, and let the chips fall where they may. This team, man, the intensity, the determination, the focus, it's a lot. I'm telling you guys, I'm not just saying this to say it and get a rise out of the Texas fans. It reminds me a lot of that 04-05 national championship Texas team. Like, everything we did had intention. I mean, even when we were playing trash can basketball, everybody was competing at something, right? And I'm starting to see that same type of thing with this group, man. And I'm excited to see what they do next week, because here's the thing. There's no hype around UTSA, right? So this is what Mac used to call a mental trap game. There's no hype around you. People expect Texas to walk in and blow out UTSA by 60-something points. I saw an article where they were talking about if Archie Manning is not playing in the second half, something is wrong. How do you tune that stuff out, right? Because we don't know what can happen in a game. We don't know if UTSA comes on some super juice and all of a sudden we're on a lull. We don't know what happens. We have to go in and have that same focus, remove the name tag of whoever it is that we're playing and saying we're playing to this standard. If y'all not up here, then you know what's going to happen. And if they do that each and every week, I honestly, outside of Georgia, I truly just don't know what team can challenge them when Texas is clicking on all cylinders.
Tony, yesterday, you and I had a conversation just offline, and you were telling him about your passion for offensive line, and that's one of those things you just got into it and have always loved yeah, you have always loved it ever since. We have a viewer question that I think would be really good for you to kind of riff on here, if you don't mind. It's from Zane Petty. Tony, how good is Kelvin Banks? What makes him so great? Of course, the junior offensive lineman out of the Humble area in Houston. What makes him so great?
Okay, when we talk about his physical prowess, obviously it's his measurements, right? He's a perfect tackle height. That 6'5", 6'6" range, 315, 320-ish. That's where you want him. So he's NFL prototype right now. When you talk about how good he is, Kelvin Banks is a first-round pick, period and point blank. You got to look at where the trajectory of how he came into the University of Texas as a starting freshman. I don't know if that has happened since, I want to say since Mike Williams. Jerry, you might have more information about that. But I believe the thing that makes him great outside of his athleticism, outside of his physical prowess, his measurements, his strength, his ability to hold point, his foot speed, right? These are all the things that we can talk about. I don't think people understand how smart this kid is. When I watch the way that he sets, like when you, and now we're going to get into some technical things. When you have a defensive end that's a speed rusher, a lot of times where tackles get in trouble is they do what's called open the gate, right? It's when they drop their back leg. So you have a tackle that has his front leg and his back leg. This leg is the leg that you want to have planted in on angles. When you come off the line because you're scared of somebody's speed and you open up that angle, you create a short corner for the defensive end just to hook you and make sacks. When I watch Kelvin, he's not scared of speed because of his athleticism. He takes the proper sets. He'll take vertical sets so that he can beat the speed rusher to the point because he's strong enough to hold the attack. I like when he has bigger rushers on him because he plays them right there on the square. And when I mean on the squares, there's an intersection point between you and the quarterback, right? And he plays them there every single time because he knows he has the anchor and the athletic ability to be able to hold any type of speed and bull rush. So there's a lot of things that you like from him from the physical side, but it's just the way that he plays the game. I see him sometimes looking at safeties and looking at linebackers, and I think I would have to ask him, but I'm sure, almost sure because of me playing the position, what he's doing is he's looking for telltale signs on how this guy's rush responsibility is, right? If I see safeties, too high safeties, there's a lot of games that defensive linemen can play, TT stunts, ET stunts, right? Into tackle, tackle to end, like all of these particular things. But when I see single high and I check outside on the slide and don't see a linebacker backed up, I know you have to have outside position. I can be more aggressive, especially when we have things like slide protection. I think Kelvin is playing this way because I don't know. I have to go back and check his stats, Bob. I don't know if he's given up a sack. I just where it's clearly been on him where he just gets beat. I don't know if that's happened. That's not just because of your physicality. That comes because of studying and want to. He's the leader. He's the leader of that team.
Yeah. Hey, intelligence, football intelligence, and caring about it and trying to put your best foot forward to learn about it. It's just no different than you sitting here, in my opinion, talking about it. All right, Tony, we appreciate you so much, buddy. Thank you for joining us. Hump Day with Hills. Tony Hills, you be good, buddy. We'll see you again, I think, on Saturday, hopefully. As well. Hook 'em, bud.
Hook 'em horns.
All right, have a good one, man. That's Tony Hills, former Longhorn legend. Jerry, we're joined now by another legend of a different sort, good and bad. Paul Finebaum, how you doing, bud?
What is going on, everybody? How's everything out in Texas?
Terrible here, terrible, Paul. Bad performance Saturday.
Yeah, I see a lot of things we need to clean up.
Paul, I tell you what, I saw a segment you did after the game, and you admitted that, hey, maybe there was some trepidation, some doubt about the Longhorns headed into the season. Were they SEC ready? Yada yada yada, that kind of stuff. We all heard it, and it's not abnormal to hear it. But you came out, I think it was on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, and said Texas is for real. You, as well as every other national media member, saw it. Texas beat down a Michigan team that's the defending national champs.
Yeah, early Sunday morning, I was on ESPN, and the anchor said, "Hey, is Texas back?" And I said, "Texas is back. Come on, let's end this conversation once and for all." There was reason to doubt, and you guys know it very well. You've lived it for 20 years, but there's no reason to doubt it anymore. And guys, what I appreciate so much is not just the play on the field, but it's the bravado of the fans. And they are now starting to infiltrate our show in the afternoon. And off the record, they are driving the Bama fans crazy, the Georgia fans crazy, because we got a couple of guys that are basically just saying, "Hey, we own the SEC now," before they've even played an SEC game.
I don't think the average Texas fan thinks that, but maybe some guys get in there and call.
Hey, Bobby, our show doesn't operate on average normal fans. You know that.
Time for me to call in.
Definitely.
Well, Paul, the SEC this year looks like the whole league is top heavy. I mean, 6 of the top 7 teams in the AP poll are SEC teams. Have you ever in your life covering the SEC, you're an SEC lifer, have you ever seen this much talent at the top of the league?
Yeah, there's never been a moment like this, and there have been some big moments. I mean, we've had a few national championship games in recent years between SEC teams, Alabama, LSU in 11, and obviously we've had 2 Alabama Georgia matchups, but never this. And what's interesting about it is that after that, it's pretty spotty. I mean, there've been some terrible moments for the SEC, but not really with what I would call any of the important teams. I mean, LSU is the only one who is even in the conversation that has lost, but we've had some inexplicable Auburn losing to Cal. You guys are well aware of A&M to Notre Dame and a few more like that. But at least as far as the top. Now, Texas is the only one I think that has played, well, maybe Tennessee, what I would call a legitimate team. Most of the wins have been, I have to correct myself again. Georgia beat a semi-legitimate team in Clemson.
Yep.
Yeah. A non-portal program, which is not the way to go.
No.
I wanted to ask you this. Big game in the swamp Saturday. A&M goes to Florida. If Florida loses, is Billy Napier fired on the walk out of the stadium?
Maybe sooner. I don't know who makes the decisions for my network, but this will be the second trip we've made to Gainesville for SEC Nation in 3 weeks. We must love a train wreck because I don't think he'll be fired, but I think the fans will completely bail on him. And what's interesting is 2 weeks ago, they were all in. I mean, they bought the Billy Napier offseason. We've got everything corrected and we're all in. And I guess you have no choice. But this would be a devastating loss. And again, I think it's obviously an even game. I have no earthly idea what A&M is all about, but other than they've been really quiet in the last couple of weeks.
Paul, I tell you what, tell folks out there how they can watch your show in the afternoon if they want to do so, my man.
Well, if you have DirecTV, good luck. But other than that, we're on the SEC network every day. It's pretty easy to find. You can also the thing that our show is very available. It's also on radio, so it's on Sirius XM channel 81. You can find it on some terrestrial radio station. So we're not the hardest show to find.
No, you're awesome.
Paul, I wanted to ask you something that I was just thinking when I thought about, and I wanted to ask you this. when Brian Kelly got mad and pounded the table at the post-game press conference after USC, is he the angriest SEC coach you've covered?
Right now, he is. He's a smart guy, and he's kind of been in this cat and mouse game with Notre Dame fans since he left, and now all of a sudden he's looking better than he was a week ago after the Notre Dame A&M game. But I think he just I'm not trying to defend him too much, but he watched a game that he should have won, and I think he's a good football coach. He's a terrible actor. We remember the accent thing on opening day, and now this. I mean, if you're going to bang the table. Don't do it bang, bang. I mean, it's like it was method acting. And there's just something about, he's from Boston, and there's just something about that Boston accent on the bayou. It just doesn't work.
I can't. When they hired him and he broke out that accent, I think everybody just went, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's like."
And remember, they went from Ed Ogeron, who literally was born on a shrimp boat. So it was quite an adjustment. But before Ogeron, they had Les Miles, who was a Michigan man, and is he still alive? I've been wondering whatever happened to him.
He is indeed. I got some other one final question for you, Paul. If you look at this, Georgia's played Clemson. You mentioned Texas. Georgia played Clemson. Texas played Michigan. Tennessee played NC State. What do you make of the top of the heap right now in college football? Who are the 3 or 4 teams you think really look the best out of the gate?
Well, I think I thought Oregon was part of that group, and right now they're not, obviously. To me, it's pretty obvious. It's Georgia, Texas, and Ohio State, however you want to shake them up. I think there's a drop-off after that. I don't know where Alabama is. They have Wisconsin this week. They have Georgia in 2 weeks. They don't look like they're going to run the table. Ole Miss is the outlier. I feel like they are really a great team. Yep. And then I'm reminded of who their coach is. And, the fact that Lane Kiffin has a better Twitter game than he does a coaching game is should not make Ole Miss fans feel great. But I think he has the team to do it. And the fact that Ole Miss plays Georgia, they play Texas too, don't they?
No, Ole Miss does not play Texas.
Play Oklahoma. Okay. It's confusing to me. I forgot Texas doesn't have any decent games this year in the SEC.
they host Georgia.
I've never seen a schedule. I mean, they play Kentucky and Vanderbilt twice. I mean, how did they get that schedule?
I want to know how Kentucky lost to South Carolina. Mark Stoops should have just stayed on the tarmac in College Station. That
was brought up a few times recently. I was up in Lexington for that game, and he didn't just lose. He got outcoached by Shane Beamer, which is hard to do.
Paul, any thoughts on Oklahoma's epic offense right now?
None. Listen, I made a vow to try to be as positive as I can to both Texas and Oklahoma, at least until Dallas in a few weeks. That looks like a reason to worry. That was pretty embarrassing. And, Oklahoma's got Tennessee next week. And man, do you think there's going to be some emotion in that game with Josh Heupel riding back into town? I know nobody watching has forgotten, but Bob Stoops fired Josh Heupel a couple of years ago. He wasn't good enough. And look at Josh Heupel now.
Yeah, OU had in their last 8 drives, Paul, on offense, the best drive was 35 yards long.
Well,
just to give an example. All right, Paul, you've been awesome, dude. We appreciate you so much. You came strong today, my man, with some good stuff.
Well, when I come on this show, I know that I can't use B material. So I'm trying to make an impression on these Texas fans. By the way, please continue to call in. Please continue to drive the Georgia and especially the Alabama fans crazy, because we need you. We need you, Texas folks.
Hey, Paul,
don't show decorum.
Paul, if you get a call in from Harry Gambleton, that's me in disguise.
Okay, well, I'll give you the hotline number. You can get on right before Jim from Tuscaloosa.
Perfect. Perfect timing.
Oh, thank you so much, buddy. You have a good one, man.
Thank you, guys. Always a
All
pleasure.
right, later, buddy. Good stuff. He's always good for a laugh, Jerry. He makes me laugh every single time. Good stuff. Hey, Jerry, this also makes me laugh. Will you please do us the honor of a Manscaped read right after Paul Finebaum takes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just this. We've gone from the Paul Finebaum segment to the Michigan Wolverines football segment. It's the 5.0, the Beard and Balls bundle. Fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be a one and done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your private parts are over thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6. Introducing the Beard and Balls bundle featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker and another for the boys downstairs. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code ONTEXAS, all caps, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code ONTEXAS, all caps, at manscaped.com. For the premium grooming experience, you have to trust Manscaped. If you're not, you're going to be looking like Michigan, and you don't want to do that.
You do not want to look like Michigan this past weekend. They got scalped by the Longhorns for sure. All right. Thanks to our guest, Tony Hills, as well as Paul Finebaum, back to back there. Both terrific insights. I loved what Tony had to say about Kelvin Banks also being a cerebral player, Jerry.
Yes.
I think that is so true of almost every great player in sports of any kind. It's, yes, they have the physicality, they have the elite athleticism or build, what have you. But the great ones, they do it with their mind too. They put it all together and use everything they've got. And that was really cool of Tony to share that with us.
Bobby, that's the thing. You know, there are guys that aren't stuffing the box sheet score for Texas through 2 games. But if you really watch a Trey Moore, he's got football intelligence.
Yep.
Look at when he dropped, rerouted Colston Loveland right into Andrew Makuba pass breakup. Okay, Texas has more guys with football intelligence on this team. That we talk about the top 5 recruiting classes, and look, I talk about it. That's my job. But within that, how many football intelligent guys are in that class? Because there's some top 5 classes out there that are built on combine numbers and pure upside. But how many football intelligent guys are you getting in these classes? And that's the one thing I think Sark is doing a very good job of in recruiting. So I look at this. Elijah Barnes is almost 6'3" and 239. I posted his clips on Twitter from the first 2 games. He has football intelligence plays in there. Reading screen, not getting sucked in. He has football intelligence. There's a number of guys. I watched Jamie French. I've been over to Jacksonville 2 times now to Mandarin. Talking with him and just watching him and listening to him, Jamie French has football intelligence. Texas has a lot of these guys. And I think that's another thing that is so big when we talk about the evaluation process, getting all these kids on campus that you can when you start winning. That makes it so much easier for this staff, to put a guy on the board and say, draw your favorite play. What's your favorite coverage and why? These football intelligence conversations are more easily had the more kids you get on campus. And I think that's the underrated part of the evaluation process, getting kids on campus.
Yeah. All right, Jerry, we've got a lot to get to. We got some questions lined up in the queue. Please feel free to get your questions in. Today's kind of a Q&A day because our captain of the ship, Blake Monroe, is out sick this morning. So Jerry and I are kind of doing this solo. The other thing I would tell you is feel free to ask or comment on anything you want to, and we will try to get to it. I am not as adept as the controls as Blake Monroe, so please forgive me if I get some things wrong. Hey, Burt Reynolds says recruiting will correlate with NFL draft performance. Do you buy that, or is there something more to that? Because I think winning matters too. I don't think it's just NFL draft performance. you have to win each and every year too. That's my opinion.
And I think they go hand in hand. Look, if you recruit, I'm just here to tell you, if Sark has 4 straight top 5 classes like is going to happen unless Texas falls off the rails on this season, goes off the rails, let's say, there's going to be, Bobby, we're going to go to practice next August and say there's 35 or 40 future NFL draft picks on this team. I mean, if you're recruiting that level year after year after year, and you develop those players, then boom, you're going to average 10 draft picks. There's a reason Sark threw out the number he wants to average in the program, because he knows, he was at Alabama. He knows what happens if you continuously recruit this level talent and your blue blood in the portal. But I think the NFL, here's the thing I'll say about the NFL. The NFL draft matters somewhat. Yes, it definitely matters. If your NFL players have success and they stay in the mainstream of college football and NFL media, that's big. Xavier Worthy scoring a touchdown, his first touchdown, his first touch in the NFL. You know, can Anthony Richardson get Donnie Mitchell the ball? I mean, that we're going to see later on in the season. But these guys go on to make plays, be playmakers in the NFL. I mean, you know how much cachet Texas has got, and they've squandered a lot of it in basketball with Kevin Durant's career. I mean, those things truly, truly matter. So these guys need to go be good pros, be on the all-pro teams, continue to be at forefront of the media in the NFL, and people know those guys went to Texas. That sustains over a long period of time. I mean, kind of what Tony Hill's talking about with TJ Ford. He had spinal stenosis, so his career didn't go the way a lot of people thought it did. Had he not had spinal stenosis, TJ would have been a 15-year pro and been a guy that he wouldn't have stopped playing in the NBA till he was 36 years old, more than likely.
All right.
That sustainability is big.
Here's another thing that I want to ask. Somebody asked on our Charnel. Curious how the guys Texas missed on in the portal are doing this season. DL from TCU. He's Dominic Williams. He's starting at OU. The UCLA defensive tackle is starting at UCLA. Don't think we push for Deion Burks up at the OU, but he looks solid for OU. He is their best receiver right now by far. I'll tell you, I'm going to take this a different direction. What about the guys that transferred from Texas this offseason? The 2 that look like they're making plays elsewhere right now based on, and there may be more to be clear, but Isaiah Nayor at Nebraska has been a really good player for Nebraska. He just did not break that top 3 at Texas and wasn't willing to wait around another year. And then Jalen Catalon. What, did he have 2 picks the other day?
Yeah,
for UNLV. He's a good player
if he's
healthy. Yeah.
I'm telling you, if Jalen Catalon's healthy all season, he will be that defensive player of the year in that conference. I have literally no doubts if he's healthy, because him and Barry Odom are on the same page. That was his college D coordinator, who's the head coach at UNLV. If Jalen Catalon stays healthy, which he hasn't been able to do, dude, he's going to win the defensive player of the year in that conference. Hey, Woodcrest has one. I think it's an interesting question. If you could have one kid from another school to play for this current Texas team, who would it be? That's for the chat too. Who's your guy in college football? Like, think about Michigan with Xavier Worthy last year. He originally signed with him. Think about that Michigan team with Xavier Worthy for a second. Who's that guy out there for you in the chat? All 2,000 plus of you. Bobby, you got anybody? Most people would say Kenneth Grant or Mason Graham.
I don't know that I would say those 2, because I think I'll tell you who I'd probably say is the running back from Boise.
Oh, he's a freak.
Yeah, and the reason I would say him is because he would be like, I love what Jaden Blue and Trey Wisner bring to the table. Don't get me wrong, but you add another first-round type talent to that offense right now. That's kind of freaky. Hey, Jerry. Also, I want to mention this. You were talking about those guys that are football intelligence guys for Texas, and you hit on Trey Moore. I want to give you these names. Juan Davis, right? He is a football intelligence guy. Jake Majors, I think Jahdae Barron is. He plays smarter, and what's the best way to put it? He accentuates his athletic talent with his mind for the game. I think Jalen Gilbo and Manny Muhammad and Andrew Makuba might all be in that category also, which is really interesting considering they're all defensive backs. All right,
by the way, here's one. Casey, we're not going to pull it up because we have this question pulled up. Peter Woods from Clemson, D tackle, is a bad dude. I mean, he kind of wrecked it against Georgia a little bit, obviously. And then somebody else brought up James Pierce from Tennessee, the edge. I mean, he's a freak.
Yep. All right, Michael Schuler has a super chat here. Thanks, Michael. We taking Texas or the field for Zealous Hicks? He's one of those 2026 guys that makes an announcement tomorrow. Texas, and he's from Carrollton, Georgia. That state again that Texas seems to want to really connect in. Texas putting some effort over there. What are your thoughts?
You know, it's an interesting recruitment. He's been to Texas 2 or 3 times. The decision kind of is really early for a junior. The schools that are there, Texas, Tennessee, Auburn, Georgia, Clemson. It's not expected to be Georgia. He was in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, of course, for the Georgia-Clemson game. He's been on Auburn's campus quite a bit. Somebody close to the Carrollton program thinks Texas has a 50-50 shot or a little better. Wow. We'll see when he announces tomorrow. I'm not – don't take that.
How big time is he, Jerry?
Do what?
How big time is he?
You know, he's a really good player. He's ranked top 75 in the country. I still think some of this stuff has to play out. So let's just say top 100 level prospect in the country on one of the best high school teams in the country. 6'2", about 180, got range, got length, physical downhill guy, has some, and I'm not saying he's this level. He's got some downhill physical characteristics Derek Williams plays with. The thing with him is he's a safety full time. A lot of these kids move around, play different positions, right? They may play running back, receiver, blah, blah, blah. He spends the vast majority of his time at safety. So he's actually developing there. And the head coach there that don't know, that's Joey King. He was the high school head coach of Cartersville, and Trevor Lawrence was there, then went to Coastal Carolina on staff. Now went back to Carrollton. And if you want to know why, they publicized it. Somebody publicized it before the season. The highest paid high school coach in America, $226,000 a year.
That's healthy, man. That's a healthy.
Yeah, that's probably like 50,000 more than any other head coach in Georgia. That's a big number.
Hey, happy birthday here to Tubin, Texas. Good morning. I officially joined the 50 club today. Good morning, buddy. Happy birthday to you, Tubin, Texas. UT Boy says it's GH, not HH. I don't quite understand that one, but I'll try to figure that out. Again, Blake Monroe is not here this morning. He's got an upset stomach, so we can't let him. He's not monitoring the chat as well as we normally do.
Hey, Bobby, we got into this discussion yesterday. I want to bring up Ashton Jainty, the running back for Boise. Because this goes right to our, and I'm not saying Jarrett Gibson's Jainty's really good, but that goes to our conversation yesterday. He's originally from Jacksonville, Florida, moved to Frisco, came out of Lone Star High in 2022, okay? He was ranked high 3-star by most. One service had him as the lowest 490, okay? Not in top 350 players in the country. 5'9", 195, fastest 100-meter time was 11.15, wasn't a combine warrior, wasn't a track guy, but you know what he is? He's got great vision. He's got tremendous feet. Testing is irrelevant with him on the college level. These running backs like that who don't fit the 5'11", 6 foot, 200 and run 4.4 at the Under Armour Nike combines and don't put up 10, 8, and 100 meters are going to get underranked nowadays. That's just where I come out. So guys like that, they're easily there. And look, and from a recruiting standpoint too, I'm not just talking about our industry. I mean, he wasn't a highly offered player. I think he picked Boise State over Cal, if I remember right. But all that trickles down. So we were talking about that with Jarrett Gibson yesterday because he runs 4.55, right, at the combines. He's 5'9", on a good day, 5'9.25", right? 205 pounds. He wasn't a highly productive high school player because he was at IMG. You went to an IMG game, Bobby. They're not going to hand it to a guy 30 times for 200 yards.
No chance. No chance.
So he didn't fit any of the profile stuff that keeps you highly ranked, other than he's really good, he's really tough, he's got really good feet, and he's got really good vision. And I can't wait to watch him go over 100 one in the next 2 weeks.
Hey, man, this is a question I wish I would have asked Paul Finebaum. Jerry, you got to remind me next time we have Paul on to bring up a question like this. Because Woodcrest, really, that's better for someone that's been in the SEC for a while as opposed to a newcomer like us a little bit, Jerry. Jerry and Bobby, why is it that Texas is the only team in the SEC that doesn't play FCS teams? I'm going to say this. So I know the Texas reason why. I talked to not only DeLoss Dodds about it back in the day, Mike Perrin. I didn't talk to Steve Patterson about it, but also Chris Del Conte. Now, Texas will not ever, if the powers that be have anything to say about it, they will not ever schedule an FCS team, ever. That's just not what Texas wants to do, regardless of maybe what others in the SEC like to do. So I can't really speak to why. I know why the SEC does it. They want like a bye week to get healthy, so they can rest their running back. That's like Texas would ideally probably like to rest Jaden Blue this week, Jerry. Right? I mean, so that's why the SEC does it. They get effectively a bye week, pump up their win total so they can get to a bowl game. Kind of massage their schedule a little bit in that way. All right, Rodrigo Ruiz, Jerry, this one from him. How are Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton looking after 2 games? Jerry, I saw you and CJ both made a comment that on rewatch, Vernon Broughton may have had his best game as a Longhorn this past week.
Well, is Huey in? Is Huey in the chat? He's a family member now. I want to say this, man, getting married does something to push you to the next level, doesn't it? But I'm just here to tell you, Brandon Price, but there's Brandon getting married now. That puts a little different pressure on you. So first of all, Vernon's having his best season at Texas. He's playing his most physical season at Texas, right? He's always been a disruptor, but he's answering the bell. Again, that was the most impressive thing to me in the Michigan. And I wanted to ask Tony this. We'll ask him next week. You know what's happening now after that game? Michigan's not very good. They're not going to be that good of a team. You knew it was coming. Offensively, they got issues. Maybe they go 8-4. I don't know. But defensively, that's a real team with a real D coordinator and multiple first, second, third round draft picks. That was now maybe their culture erodes and implodes this season. We have no control over that. What happens after a Texas dumps on them if they lose to USC in 2 weeks? Maybe that stuff starts to erode there. But talent-wise on that defense, those guys are really good. And Texas, and offensive line-wise with Michigan, they didn't roll out 5 G5 patsies. Those guys are really good. Michigan guys are physical football players on the line of scrimmage. It always will happen, always will be. It's their brand of football. Texas out-physicaled Michigan. We knew Texas was faster, but they went into Ann Arbor and said, we're going to out-physical you today. Hayden Connor had his most physical game on contact, I remember, at Texas. Vernon is playing at the highest level he has. And he's more physical on contact this year to me. Alfred Collins playing well, right? Versatility is his calling card. You can play him at the 3. You can move him out in a 3-man front. Same with Vernon. These guys have taken their physical, and I think it speaks to kind of what Tony was talking about earlier. But this Texas team out-physicaled Michigan. That was my biggest takeaway from the game that's going to carry over into the SEC. Because people can say what they want about the SEC, maybe Texas schedule. It's not what Oklahoma's is, but it's a physical line of scrimmage league still, even though the skill athletes and offenses have gotten so much better. you still have to win up front in that league because you're playing against big dudes every week. Mississippi State will have some big guys. You'll be, if you go to the game, you'll be like, man, they look pretty good physically. I mean, that's just the way these SEC teams are. That was my biggest takeaway is Texas went in Ann Arbor and pushed Michigan around on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Not that Michigan didn't have a little success running because they're going to. That's their calling card. But Texas won the physical battle. That was impressive. And Vernon was one of those guys.
Good stuff, Jerry. Eric Raspberry asking a real quick question here. Where are you guys tailgating this weekend? We're going to be up on the LBJ lawn right across from Dedman Avenue on University of Texas campus. We'll be up there. We're going to be doing a podcast, et cetera, that kind of stuff. Stop by, please. We'll put a more direct location for you guys later in the week as well. Before we move on, I want to say this. This is funny. UT10 Rocks 2005. Thanks for the super chat. Thoughts on CJ, our CJ Vogel, pissing Kenneth Grant, the Michigan defensive tackle, off after the game. Massive dub for CJ and makes Grant look like a child and immature. Let me explain what UT10 Rocks is talking about here. CJ Vogel actually posted a video, a screen grab from the game, and said, hey, look, DJ Campbell and Jake Majors took care of Kenneth Grant on this play. Well, Kenneth Grant apparently followed CJ and then wrote back that it was a hold and all this other stuff. And then he blocked CJ from his Twitter account. CJ wasn't trying to get under Kenneth Grant's skin. He was just trying to show, hey, this is a good play by DJ Campbell.
Yeah, the funny thing about that play was Kenneth Grant was probably right. But, I mean, you can call it on poor Cam Williams. You can call that stuff all the time. But, dude, you're going to be like a first or second round draft pick. What are you doing going after media people on Twitter? Why do you care? I don't understand.
It is what it is, Jerry.
I don't understand.
I think young guys get temperamental. I don't think it's that big a deal. I really don't. All right. I want to say thank you to our sponsor one more time. That's Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, including motorcycle or ATV, 18-wheeler, give him a call. He's been representing injured Texans for more than 2 decades now, he and his team. Reach out to him at loweylawfirm.com. That's loweylawfirm.com. They will give you a free, no strings attached consultation about whether or not they think you might be due some compensation. Jerry, we've got a few more questions. There's a couple in here that I want to do back to back, if you don't mind, and it bleeds into a longer conversation, actually. Travis R., with 105 scholarship roster limit, how come the staff won't take a chance on legacy program guys like Ed Small and Landon Rink to supplement roster spots 86 to 105 with walk-ons seemingly going away? That's part one of this. The other one from Bobby Petronic. How do teams suddenly go to 105-man rosters? One ginormous class or several big classes to hit the number? There's a lot to digest in that. First of all, Landon Rink and Ed Small don't see themselves as walk-ons. Let's start with that. And so while you can cast a wider net, we'll see what that means. That also, those 20 walk-on spots may take away some NIL money from the rest of the team. Don't forget about that, because I think it has to be everybody has to participate that's on the team at that point.
But Bobby, I have a question for you, and I don't think we know the answer on this yet fully. I wonder how many teams are actually going to exercise all 105.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
I don't think many are.
I think some will if they don't have to pay NIL to every single one of them,
right?
Based on XYZ, because at some level, yes, it's good to have those walk-ons out there competing. And what the reason why Steve Sarkisian likes it, and he talks about it all the time, is something they call two-spotting. What two-spotting means is he can have 2 practices going on simultaneously because he's got enough for a first, second, third, and fourth team. So ones can be going against 2s and 3s can be going against 4s simultaneously. He likes that. And so I do think that they'll try to go above 85 for sure. I don't know how high Texas will necessarily go. Bobby Metronic's question about this is interesting too, because how do they do it? Is it just voila, let's take 40 guys in this one recruiting class. I think they're going to be more deliberate than that. But we could start seeing recruiting classes edge up to 27, 28, 29. And I do think that the transfer portal also may end up being more liberal. And what I mean by that is you may see more guys enter the transfer portal earlier if they're seeing. I don't know what the answer is going to be yet.
Yeah. So here's my thought on it. Here's my thought from a strategy standpoint. If I was a college coach at a blue blood, I would take one extra defensive lineman per class. Now, that sometimes that's easier said than done. Because when I was in Georgia last week, the talk was if this goes into effect this next year, Georgia was going to take 6 defensive linemen in this class. I call them stash and develop guys. So that'd be 1 or 2 more than what they were originally planning to take. I call it stash and develop. But how many kids want to be told that? Like, how many kids are going to take that over going and potentially getting on the field earlier at a Cal or somewhere like that? So I think you're going to have to recruit probably 5, 6, 7 defensive linemen for a potential 5th spot in the class and find the one that fits that development part, that they're on the same page. I don't think you want to take a kid that has unrealistic expectations and he's out the door a year later. So I think D-line, I would take an extra kid in every class if I could, and I call it stash and develop. I would take an extra corner in every class, but it would have to be a corner that is tall, long limb kid that you can develop over time, that's okay with developing over time. And again, I think you're going to have to cast a wide net to get one of those kids in every class, because other schools are going to be coming at them saying, hey man, you're going to sit there for 3 years, or you want to have a chance to play here after 1, or maybe your freshman year. Those are recruitments. I just don't think kids are just going to jump on necessarily be part of a Texas or Georgia or Bama. I don't think it's going to work that way. I think you're going to have to do your due diligence, find those kids that were willing to be a stash and develop kid, and development is all they care about, and they don't care if they're on the field their first year, maybe even their second. If you can find a D lineman in every class, a corner in every class, I think that's the direction I would go. I don't think you're going to sit there and be taking 8 defensive linemen in a class, because you're not going to get the guys you want. The numbers become an issue. I know, to Bobby's Petronic's point, I don't think you're going to see a 38-man recruiting class to try to get up to 95 scholarships 1 year, because you're taking too many kids that are just going to end up walking after a year. I don't think that's the way you go about it. I think you have to be very smart and have a really good plan. But I do think defensive line, you want to sign an extra guy in every class at the 105. Every class.
All right, that's going to do it for this morning's Coffee and Football. Thank you to Paul Finebaum, as well as Tony the Tycoon Hills, former Longhorn player, joining us this morning as guests. We're really going to enjoy having Tony on as a regular, Jerry. Just a wealth of knowledge and a good guy, enjoys Longhorn football as much as everybody here, and really put the blood, sweat, and tears into the program. So happy that he's joining On Texas Football. I also want to say thank you to our sponsors, not only Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm, but also HelloFresh and Manscaped. And look, Jerry and I want to say thank you to all of you.
Yes.
Not just for being here in this, but also supporting the Longhorns, as we've been talking about all week, and really started yesterday and Monday, talking about it's important when Texas goes to play UTSA that the Longhorns have the fight behind them too. They're not going into a stadium with 85,000 people in it. Let's keep the momentum going for this. There are going to be recruits on campus too, et cetera. So let's keep that momentum going for the Longhorns.
I hope all the Texas fans make it an emotional party for the Texas team Saturday night.
It should be a drone show at some time too. You're going to get to see some fireworks.
The fans matter so much in games like this. Coming off the Michigan game, you can't expect the team to be on the same emotional high as they were in Ann Arbor. This is where fan base is. And that was kind of my thing with A&A. And A&M people got mad at me last week for saying, this is when you show up. Their team needed their fan base last week, even though it was McNeese State. That it's different because Texas is coming off a huge emotional high win, but the Texas fans, this is when you push your team that you love. These games right here the next 2 weeks. I mean, I know some people are going to, oh, man, it's going to be 50-10 and 60-10. Yeah, but you know what? How long has it been since the Texas team's been this good legitimately? Go enjoy it and push these guys and show them how much you appreciate their hard work and help push their emotion to the next level.
All right. I want to invite you guys also to join the discussion with Jerry, myself, Blake, CJ Vogel, et cetera, on TexasFootball.com. It's a community that's growing each and every day. Come talk a little football with us. We're developing a good community. We try to keep it down the middle there. Nobody's calling people names or anything like that. We're trying to make it a good, healthy community where people can just talk football, talk Texas athletics, et cetera. Please come join us on TexasFootball.com is the website. All right, Jerry, that's going to do it for this morning. Coffee and Football. Hope to see Blake Monroe back in the saddle tomorrow morning. For Jerry Hamilton, I'm Bobby Burton. This has been On Texas Football. Hook 'em.